So, Weesai insists that I can kind of paint. I can kind of paint, but it's not a skill that I list on my CV of hobby achievements. It's very much a thing that I do through necessity because it's very hard to call it a hobby if you don't actually hobby. The other thing I quite enjoy and I'm quite pleased with, but largely I apply paint to objects, sometimes with satisfactory results, very seldom with any expertise or skill whatsoever. So the concept of me doing a painting video is a bit stupid, frankly, but here we go. So we're going to start with something simple, and that simple is some of the Amera terrain that is for my Amera gaming board project. These are 3 sections out of the Demolished building kit. They have been primed already. As a preference, I tend to use just good old car shop primer because it's cheap and it does the job, and you're going to cover it with more paint anyway. That per milliliter costs an awful lot more, stupidly.
Now, I don't know how basic we need to get, but if you're undercoating stuff and you haven't done it before, there's a way to do it and there's a way not to do it. Not sure if this is the way to do it, but it's the way I do it. First of all, make sure you're outside, well ventilated area, and don't be anywhere near that you don't want to get sprayed with paint, like your car, or your ma's car, or your dad's car, or anybody else's car for that matter. Generally, if you can spray stuff in a box, it's kind of handy because it keeps the spray from going too far and wrecking other stuff around you. Make sure you give them the can a good spray, and you're better working in short controlled bursts. The other thing about undercoating is a lot of people would say to you it's a good idea to wash the model first. Doesn't matter whether it's a metal, miniature, plastic, miniature, model kit. Apparently there can be like release agent on them. I've never washed a model in my life. That's not to say that there's not a place and a time for doing it. I've just got lucky. Then again, sometimes I don't care about the results. But anyway, spraying. Let's see if I can flip this camera around, shall we? So you want to make sure you're about 30 centimeters or so back from the object that you're spraying, and you'll be trying to do it in short bursts. Now, there's a bit of a breeze today, which isn't ideal because it'll carry your spray away, and this is why we're saying you normally sort of spray a thing where it's kind of sheltered. So this might take a bit more than is normally required. Now, some people are adamant that an undercoated miniature needs to be 100% covered. Other people say it does not. The reason you tend to work in shorter bursts or moving the bursts about is so that the spray paint doesn't kind of pull on you and end up clogging up an area of the model, particularly more relevant on a miniature that you might be spraying up. Something big and flat like this, not quite so much of an issue. And on a building kit or something like that, if there's a run, you can normally work with it better. So you just got to be sort of careful. Like, I was going to say exercise common sense, but if you've never done a thing before, common sense isn't a thing you've already achieved. You have to make a few mistakes to kind of earn common sense. But basically, you're trying to cover the majority of the model. The kind of undercoat you use, you really want to be working with something that is ideally kind of providing a base colour for what you're doing. In the case of black, it's kind of providing the shadows in the recesses of the model. But like if you were doing something that was going to be predominantly red, you can easily use a red or whatever. But always make sure that what you're working with is actually a matte spray. You don't want to be really working with a gloss or anything like that there. So you're looking for it to sort of say, you know, the likes of that, matte black, M-A-T-T. So it doesn't belong to matte. It's the fact that it has no sheen in it is what you're looking for. Now, you might sometimes need to do a couple of coats, and you are better. See, the wind's taking that a wee bit there. That's what I'm saying about the thing not being shielded. You are better doing less and letting it dry and coming back and putting a bit more onto it. That's the general principle of it. But it's not like utterly essential that it be everywhere. Sometimes on a miniature, I quite enjoy brush coating and undercoat on, particularly in a bigger miniature, because I think it kind of gets you familiar with the detail that's on the model that you're going to then be trying to cover with paint later on as you get it done. So once you're happy enough that you've undercoated the whole thing, then you just want to leave it so that it's properly dried before you start working with it.
Andy, what are your preferred paints? Apparently some people care about that. My preferred paints are whatever ones are in my pot that haven't dried out. That being said, it's safe to say that I do have a tendency to use Army Painter or Game Colour or Games Workshop stuff, with less of a preference to the latter. So, this is a wall. Walls tend to be grey. That's my experience for post-apocalyptic kind of wrecked walls. I've got some of this contrast stuff. It looks very dark, so I'm not going to kick off with that. I've got black, which is kind of pointless at the minute. I've got a base of Mechanicus standard grey. I'll give that a go. I don't know, might do something. Normally I would much prefer to play music, but that tends to violate things like copyright. I could put headphones in, but then I'd be listening to the music and forget to talk at all. No bad thing for you guys. Palettes and stuff, I tend to use my table or whatever nearby surface I've got. I'm kind of happy enough for this grey to be a fairly heavy coat and just crack it on. And I mean, this is where I kind of flounder in the idea of doing a painting video, because for one, I have really no idea what I'm doing, okay? And for two, I have really no idea what I'm doing, but it seemed like such an important point that I thought I would mention it twice. But generally speaking, I work an idea of starting with a dark colour and bringing it up lighter. I think that's kind of a normal way. And sometimes along the route, I kind of forget, and I'll dabble, and I'll experiment, and I'll randomly mix some colours. And I try to have a good time when I'm doing it. Usually, when it's little people or things like that, I'm kind of busy creating a little story in my head about what it's for, like what building is this wall part of? So what colours should it be? And what damaged it? So what should the damage look like? And these kind of things entertain me as I paint. And when it's little people, even if they're just rank and file soldiers, I'm tending to give them a wee story in my head. Who they are, where they're from, what kind of life they've lived. Are they good people? Are they bad people? Are they just painted that way? And generally, that's the kind of mad dog that rattles through my head when I'm doing it. And when I'm at the club, I'm doing a bit of hobby, and people, as they will, come over to see what you're doing and sit down to talk to you while you're doing it. I of course have a habit of stopping and setting everything down and chatting to them and forgetting to do anything at all. So we've done that bit. Now, in some worlds, that's finished. It's got paint on it, and it's a wall. And if you really needed to, you could trim off the excess plastic around there and get on with it. Nobody's going to cry. Nobody's going to get cross or upset or annoyed at you. It's a wall, and it's got grey paint on it. So let's try and tell a story with this small tiny bit of wall. What sort of story would this wall tell? Well, that's a silly question because it's a tiny small bit of wall. But I'm reckoning that by the looks of things, this is the inside of the wall and this is the outside of the wall because it's kind of got more cracky damage to it. So I'm thinking, yeah, I'm thinking there'll be a colour to this side, but not to this side. So, what colour would that wall be? Let's give it a hint of blue. That's what my brain's telling me. We'll go with that, shall we? A hint of blue. Now, I don't want much blue. I literally want a suggestion of it. I might put a wash on it later. We'll see how it goes. I don't know. But I kind of like the idea that it had been blue and it's been battered about a bit. So that blue is kind of giving way. And maybe some blue down amongst the debris and rubble to suggest the colour, and amongst the broken bits as well. Now it might be a bit stronger down at the bottom where it's kind of less exposed and stuff, I don't know. That seems to make sense in my head. I'll make it a bit stronger down around the bottoms and some of the larger sections that haven't really seen much damage up to the chips, and a couple of splashes of that down here on the floor amongst the leftover bits. There we go, it's got a hint of blue going on with it. Now, the outside of the wall. Well, let's try and see what this contrast grey thing does. I don't know, worth a go. I'm going to probably work it into around the recesses and around the bottom. Into these cracks, yeah. Not really what contrast paint's for, but the downside, I suppose to an extent with the Amera things, is that they don't have a huge pile of surface detail, and contrast paint seems to work well kind of going into recesses and things like that. We don't really have that on this. We'll do some on the bigger areas on the inside as well. Down around the ground, the bigger chunks, and round that sort of edge where the debris fell, and I think we'll put a wee bit in around these chips on the top too. Okay, it's kind of enough of that, I think. Now, cleaning your brush is very important. There, that's clean enough for what I'm doing. And your hand can be washed anyway. Your hand's like a palette. So, I've got some of this Astro Granite texture. I don't know. Seems a bit cheaty to stick textured paint onto this now, but I'm going to try a little bit and see what it does, because I don't know. Might do something that we like and it might not. It's definitely paler. I'll keep it up around the tops here. See what we like with that first. Certainly on the outside, if the texture has any sort of depth to it, it might make a difference. I'll put some down here again as well. I feel like we should be looking for a happy little tree, but we'll settle for some happy little rubble instead, will we? And we'll just put a little bit of some of these bits on the inside, top edge. Okay. Now, I don't know, it's still a bit kind of uninspiring at the minute. Didn't bring a whole pile of colour in with me, so let's try mixing this up a bit. I've got some of this Corax white. Wasn't really a big fan of it, mainly because I thought it was brown white and I wasn't. But it's kind of an interesting off-white, and I'm just going to mix it with some of the leftover colour, both the grey and the texture that I've got there. Let's see what this does. Get more of that off. Yeah, on the outside I'm certainly happier with it. That's certainly bringing up those cracks on the outside quite well. Let's get a little bit paler. That hadn't dried, so that was a bit of a schoolboy error going over that, but we'll just work that damp grey back into what we were doing here. And really get as much of it off as I can be bothered with there now, and soften up those streaks and striations a little bit down into the blue. And I can't really tell you that I'm doing anything exciting or weird. This is the thing that I don't get about it. It's like I'm just putting paint on a thing. I don't really sort of see the rationale in showing you that all the time. Especially when you don't know what you're doing. Different matter if you sort of knew about colour combinations and all this sort of thing. But there we go, that's kind of like, I'd be stopping at that now, and I'm fairly happy that that is what it needs to be. Now, I could grey off the base here, and because the idea is that you trim around all of this and remove it so this is your terrain piece. Okay. But I don't know, could leave it on it. I could mount it on a bit of board, I guess, and have this as extra. Will we do that? Will we grey it off? Maybe the texture paint be the way to go. Let's try it and see, because I can always clip it off anyway. Now it's going to be a different grey, obviously. Now we've dry brushed up everything else. Oh yeah, if you're tuning and expecting like layering techniques or feathering or whatever, I'm aware of the words. That's where my knowledge and expertise ends. I can possibly spell it. I'm not sure I can spell expertise. You really need to learn to spell words that you need. When you don't have any, you don't need it. So okay, now we've kind of painted that in with some textured grey. I suppose we could try and add a bit of I've gone for far too much white there. Far too much. That's a big waste of paint. And I think with this, all I'm trying to do is kind of suggest a tonal variation on the ground. You don't want it to look like brushwork. So if you end up with brush marks or brush strokes or things that look feathery, you just kind of keep working them until they go away in my head, until you get like a model concrete. Concrete, especially battle-worn concrete and granite and things, I think always should have like a bit of tonal variation. Probably a little bit of debris extra glued onto this base will be part of the secret for this working too. So maybe some more bits of sprue cut up into like tiny blocks or big chunks of plastic card or something that we can use as like concrete blocks or sheets or something. Might help. Just to fill up the space. Of course you do want miniatures to be able to get up around it as well, that's kind of important. But as you can see, there's no real kind of rocket science to how I approach this. It's possibly the worst example of painting you'll find. Doesn't wash his brush, doesn't obey colour rules, doesn't sort of follow a standard process, and mixes stuff up randomly without the science of colour. So there we go. Do you know what? I'm kind of happy with that, dare I say it. It's kind of where we're at with it. And I'm happy enough to live with that and say that that's done. It's got a hint of colour. On a lot of the buildings that I've been doing for the Amera stuff, I have been putting posters and graffiti and things like that there. I don't know that this wall warrants it. It is a little bit of scatter terrain and I don't think it needs that. So there we go. I'm calling that done. Exhibit A.